Okay, hey everyone, this is Michelle Oliver, and we are here today with Courageous Conversations. We are actually going live here on Clubhouse as part of our weekly Courageous Conversations. And this is Michelle Oliver. I am here today with Lisa Michelle Zega, and we are going to talk today about letting go. This is a really, oh my gosh, this is a topic that we could talk about for decades, right? And
A lifetime.
the way this rolls is we really dive in every Monday and we just start talking spontaneously about these topics and sharing our own experience and what we have learned and trying to offer some value for the community here with especially women in midlife. So Lisa, Michelle, welcome.
Thank you.
I
It's good to
know
be here.
that both of us work a lot with women in midlife, but you tend to work in this area actually. Grief
Yeah.
is so much about letting go. Would you like to kind of open the conversation?
Well, I'll do that in reference to grief, because we, all of us, have grown up in a society where grief doesn't tend to be honored or understood. So, and if we were in a perfect world, we would experience hard things. And have you ever watched a dog? They you can see this dog do this like wild shake and then they go on. But we as humans don't learn to just release or let go of what we experience as suffering when it happens. A quick definition, just to broaden it for people, is I'm defining grief here as a normal and natural response to loss. And we all know loss, even the good gifts in life come with a loss, right? You get a new job. And what are you having the loss of? The routine you've experienced up until then, whether you were a homemaker or you're leaving your former coworkers, whatever it is, there's a transition from what you have become accustomed to. And even though you're gaining something, there's a loss involved, right? Marriage is another example. Obviously, divorce is an example. We've got so many examples. But the reason I brought up grief is we've been carrying grief from our childhood. And often it's unmetabolized. We just simply haven't known how to process it, but it's imprinted in our body and it influences our present day life. So there's a lot that we get to acknowledge and let go. And that's the work that I do, is leading women primarily who are experiencing a divorce after a long-term marriage or experiencing the death of a spouse. And in both situations, life is has taken a radical right turn and then there's a rebuild. So a lot of the freedom to enjoy and build a new life comes from letting go.
Okay, I just want to comment on a couple of things here regarding grief. So in the work that I do with women, I often speak about you're going to change, right? You're going to grow, you're going to go through these transitions, and you can either go through pain, which is something that will happen that will push you out of your comfort zone, or you can be pulled by a vision, right? So when we're talking about grief and trauma, around like these topics that you mentioned, I mean, this can go all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
but what comes to my mind is that these are typically experiences that we're not anticipating, right? It's a trauma like
Exactly.
an unknown divorce, a death, something like that. And so let's stay a little bit there for a few minutes because there's so much content here. And I'd like to ask you, I know this isn't an interview, but this is your specialty. And so I know the experience I had with grief came
Mhm.
from an unanticipated event and a lack of ability to have closure over that event.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's something really significant about the loss of control, right? And I'm going to say one more thing and then I want to ask you. So I know that when I went through this, I was I mean, it was this thing that I kept trying to gain control over. And it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before, because that feeling of grief would come like a tsunami of uncontrollable energy at the
Yes.
weirdest flippin' times.
Mhm. Mhm.
So share with us a little bit about your experience with that and, what you suggest, how you coach people through that.
So that is, thank you. Thank you for that setup, because one of the things that I'm constantly saying in when I write or speak is that your grief lives as the undone inside you. It lives as the open, and all of us long for a sense of closure, like you spoke about. And when oftentimes in divorce, we don't get the closure that we desire, right? Or any time it feels like it's at the mercy of another human. So someone dies. Well, when they die, you're still left with all your unmet hopes, dreams, expectations, all the things you longed for, the future you were building. And we have this tendency to not speak ill of anyone. So we're not even being honest with ourselves about the fullness of the relationship. Okay. What I want women to know, and all of our listeners, is that you don't need that person to get the closure that your body needs and desires, that your emotions need and desire. And there's a couple things that I would recommend. When the emotions come like a tsunami, be with them. They are not going to last longer than 90 seconds. So you want to be with them rather than suppressing them, right? Pushing them down, because tears on the outside are always better than tears on the inside. Tears on the inside end up creating health problems and do all manner within our body of havoc. So let the feelings come in their fullness, acknowledge them, and then let them go. Like surrender to it and let it go. Like you would ride a wave on a boogie board. Go with it, ride it. The wave passes, you release it, but feel the actual feeling. Do not tell yourself it's not okay to be angry or whatever. Like, release your judgment. That would be the first thing. Allow it. Don't judge the feeling. Don't try to explain it, intellectualize it, any of that stuff. And then I'll give you three categories. And I just want to give honor to the Grief Recovery Institute, because they're the ones that have put this out there. But there are three categories that can be really helpful in dealing with your grief. Anything that you did that does not feel congruent with the human that you are, anywhere you compromised your values that you want to release, that you'd like to give an apology for, acknowledge that. You can journal that, whatever, but acknowledge where you're holding an apology that does not feel safe to give to the other human. Anywhere that you want to release something that is living like a toxin in you. Anything like, think forgiveness, but you're not ever, 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 forgiveness is not condoning. You're acknowledging, I'm holding this resentment, And again, you can do that same exercise. Bring the emotion in. You don't have to wait for the emotion to come. Feel it, acknowledge it, let it go. And then the last one would be gratitude. Think of all the things that you love and want to keep and cherish because you were in that relationship. Because grief, I'm just going to posit this out there, grief lives in our relationships, all our relationships. So wherever you're holding gratitude, also acknowledge that. You want to make sure that you acknowledge both sides, where there's something you need to release and where there's something you're thankful for. And um, I would say we're not designed to heal alone. We do this in community, and that's why I do the work that I do.
Yeah, I love that. That is very, very valuable. Everything you shared. Wish I would have known you when I was going through this alone. But I'll tell you what came to my mind when you were speaking is, um, and this is what I discovered when I was in that. The idea of letting go is often not about letting go of what we think. Like you may think, oh my gosh, I have to let go of the relationship or my need for the relationship or whatever. But so often I don't know if I can articulate this clearly, but it's really that we have this idea that, like you said, you don't need the relationship, you don't need the person, you don't need the thing that you can't get closure with to get closure. And so we tend to project everything out there into the world around us, right? And that's exactly what it's like when you have a terrible, terrible, terrible breakup. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get to a point where one day you realize, wow, I generated this feeling of healing or feeling of love or feeling of being like the chosen one. Like we realize that the fulcrum of control is within us. And I think that is largely what really everything is about, as
Yeah.
we learn that we actually are the captain of our ship, that
Yeah.
we can initiate healing, we can go through these things, we can build our lives, we can choose. um, and letting go is almost like letting go of the concepts that we think we require to have the life that we want or the experience that we want. It's a mental thing.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that you said, you talked about the fulcrum of control and you talked about us projecting things out there. Look, grief lives in our bodies. Your body is at stake, and only you live in your own body, right? So, exactly what you're saying, Michelle. And one of the things that I want to put out there are women who have experienced things that are total injustice, and there are things that were done to them both in childhood and in adulthood, right? A woman that is raped has been victimized by the rape, but victimhood does not need to stay living in her body. So we're never making any person responsible for the things that happened to them. There are things that happen to each of us that were out of our control, and we're not responsible for that. We're responsible for our hearts, this body, this life, and the fulcrum of control of how we're going to heal and what we're going to do. It's our responsibility. So I will tell you this, continuing to put the focus out there does nothing for in here. And it doesn't, we want to have compassion on ourselves and each other for what actually happened. But if we continue to live out there, why would we hand over the power of this one precious life to anyone else? And I work with women, Michelle, I will say this, who have experienced grave atrocities. But you know what? I'm so happy to report they take responsibility for their heart and begin to live amazing lives of freedom and joy. Why? They never made themselves responsible for those terrible events. They made themselves responsible for this one precious heart and life. Like that's amazing. That's heroic. So,
Yeah, so I want to comment on that too, that one thing I remember I experienced, and I know this is common, we've discussed this before, that we tend to diminish our own experience. So, and maybe, that can also prevent us from getting the help or the community that could allow us to move forward more rapidly.
absolutely. We
But
do. We think we're supposed to just move on. And that's what I mean by a society that doesn't honor grief or isn't educated around grief, because we just think that we're supposed to be strong for others, carry on. People just want us to be normal. So what do? We make our experiences super duper small, and they're not small. But then they live in a, you know what, it creates dissonance in our body. It's like you're banishing parts of yourself to a basement, and those parts of yourself are like, let me out, so that we can be integrated and whole and live in our essence, live in our meaning. But we making ourselves small or our experiences small. Again, only we live in this body, but we literally suppress and repress parts of ourselves that are too glorious to be ignored. So it's my theory that those parts of us continue to rule our lives until we will bear witness and integrate them into and acknowledge, hey, you were doing that to keep me safe. This part of me was I don't know. um I interrupted you and I just went for it, so I'm gonna hand it back.
yeah, no, that's fine. That's actually what I wanted to say, was about the body, that I know in my experience, I wasn't, it was a situation that I think a lot of people have with whatever, where you just, it's so insidious and it's so much a part, because it is housed within your body,
Absolutely.
this trauma and grief, that it's really easy to just think that you can just handle it, or that it's going to go away. But what I was going to say is, like, in my experience, I know the thing that kind of shook me out of it was like, instinctively I knew I had to do things with my body. And I even do this to today. We've spoken of this many times, that would shock me out of it. And I know I shared with you at one point, I remember standing in the shower and just thinking, I have to shift, like the energy has to shift.
Yeah.
I have to be able to deal with this. And I did not at that time know about ice baths and Wim Hof and all that stuff. And I just turned the shower on super cold, and I stood in there until I was shivering. And that experience of chemically changing the chemistry and the biochemistry, or whatever it is, of my body, shifted my state and empowered me and
Yes.
helped me realize that I had control, that I had the ability to shift my attention, because sometimes when you're inside of it, you just can't see your way out.
Mm-mm.
So I do believe that addressing the body, and this is why the holistic approach to life
Mm-hmm.
is so important, that we
Yes.
do things every day with our body. It's like this fasting thing. We're doing this fasting challenge together on this, actually. We're on day, what day is it?
Seven. Seven.
In 7 of 10 days, because when you do these things, your awareness, everything changes. So much lives in our body, that that wants to be released and hasn't been able to. So
Yeah.
that letting go physically can initiate the rest of it, the emotional release too. Yeah. So, okay.
One of the things there's two things I want to share with you. One is a total aside. And that is that the other day, so I'm only up to 3 minutes in my ice cold showers, but I do it every day at the end of a shower. So my
Wait,
scalp
I
went.
gotta interrupt you. Don't diminish that. That's a long time, you guys. I was timing myself on that app for like last year. 3 minutes is like the super guru advanced. It's so much longer than you think. It's a really long,
Really?
3 minutes.
It felt like so, well, because I
Oh
was
my God.
picturing you shivering and I didn't get to the shiver, but my scalp went completely like there was a numbness and an electricity. And I totally had you in mind while I was in the shower, Michelle, um, getting ice
I've
cold.
always been hoping someone would be thinking of me in the shower, but it wasn't you. I wasn't,
Yeah, I wasn't the one.
I was kind of thinking it would be like that prince.
The French
I
man.
was, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's the aside, but one of the things that's super
I
cool.
can't believe I'm embarrassed. I don't even know this guy. I have a crush on this random French guy just because I can. And the French don't take
Just
cold
so everybody
showers.
knows, he's like somebody. She was watching a YouTube video, but it's become a fun
Okay,
aside.
because we are all 17 years old, really. But anyway, let's carry on with this.
Then the other thing, so myself and my clients will experience these big physical releases. So we'll go through this process of grieving a relationship, and one of my clients, because I had shared with her, I'm very interactive, and they get to know a lot about me. But I had told her about, after going through this process, how I eliminated so much that I felt like I should be celebrated. It didn't seem human, and I wanted to take a picture of my excrement in the toilet. I didn't,
Oh
but I
my
wanted
God.
to.
You just
You
always
can't
are pushing the
believe what
back.
all comes out of you
Oh my
talking about
God.
letting go. And anyway, um I've had other clients have different physical experiences, but I had one who seems to resemble my personality. And she said, Lisa, I almost sent you a picture.
Oh my
And she
God.
made her mom look at it, and her mom wasn't impressed. But I think it's magical the way that our physical body responds to us releasing emotions. It is another witness of the integration, the wholeness of who we are. So if it was too much for some of you, well, you're
She
grown.
doesn't care. She doesn't care how you feel about it. Okay, so I want to shift this conversation a little bit to something I was thinking about around this topic.
Okay.
Um, which is because when I'm working with women, it's a little different. I mean, there's always some kind of underlying thing, right? But I like to think of letting go as everything has like an outline, and similar to actually what I was talking about before. But if you think of like back to, I know you talk a lot about the acorn and the tree, and I
Hmm.
was thinking again this morning about the egg. So if you are this beautiful, exotic, tropical or cute little bird or whatever kind of bird you are, and you're coming out of that egg, you want to hold on to what has nourished you, what has
Yeah.
met
Yeah.
your need up until that particular point. But in nature, you see that there's such an expansion. If you're thinking about the tree or the flower or whatever, the bud, and then the bud dies and the flower blooms and dies, and there is a death. There
There's
is this,
absolutely.
yeah, but the death is not resisted in nature. The death is nothing more than this so much expansion that the old form falls away. Okay. So when I watch these women, and it's amazing because they think they're building a business, and they are, but I'm watching them get so big as who they are and expand their skills and abilities and talents, that it shifts the framework and
Yes.
the expression of their business in the world. And the thing about that I love about business, and why I do believe it is the art of business, is it is a constant expansion. It is the incredible creative process of dying and birthing. And the faster you will allow yourself to go, the less you resist it. That's when it gets fun, because you literally surrender to the process. And that's what faith is about. And I think, I'm sure it's the same in grief, right? But you guys, everything in life is this magical opportunity to live into the movement of life itself, which will carry you into these, building a business or building a new life or a new relationship or whatever. You don't have to like hold on to the cocoon or oh my God, my automatic desk just started going up. Okay, the cocoon, you can't breathe in there anymore. And the only way the last little shreds of it go away, this is a lot of mixed metaphors, is when your wings open, you start to push out. So you have to be, it's like falling more in love with this sense of expansion rather than the sense of restriction, or what nourished you before. You don't realize it's a restriction, you know?
Well, you said like you dropped so many gems, and I'm just going to try to pick a few of them up. And this first gem I'm going to bring up is from earlier in the conversation, but it really resonates with what you're saying now. Having a big enough vision to
Mm.
pull you forward through the pain of transformation. Like you want to set an anchor, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing to know is that our brains want safety. Our nervous system is designed for safety. Okay. The other thing, and I'll just, how about I do this? When I started my business, this is what I've learned. Those historical things that we've either repressed unconsciously or suppressed, like we don't want to feel them, right? When we're doing something new, something adventurous, something outside our comfort zone, those old things emerge.
Yes.
It is the nature of the process.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about, look, the seed dies,
Yeah.
and it dies for the purpose of the rebirth. But like your nervous system doesn't want to experience death. It's wired for safety. So what happens is we become the ones who then regulate and give our nervous system the comfort that it needs for the adventure that we're pursuing. So we can't ignore the fact that this precious body needs the nurturing comfort of you're going to be okay. This is part of the process. We do experience the death before we get the big expansion, the wings, the oak tree, whatever it is, the exotic bird. So when I started my business, I cannot tell you how much shame came up. It was like paralyzing. And because I work in the grief space, that is my business. I I had this double whammy of like I was shamed about my shame. Like, who the hell are you to do this work? Look at you, balled up in a cocoon. I have since learned, one, there was emotional stuff coming up that ended up, my shame has been the biggest provision to me because it's allowed my body to release what it's been storing all along so that I can get traction. But now, like you said, Michelle, my shame cycles are so minimal because they don't scare me. And I'm able to give my body what it needs and do the expansion. But in the beginning, when we're not expecting to go through a death, we think that we've gone off the rails. We think and I think this is why a lot of businesses fail in the beginning. It's not because the external, it's because of what's going on in us. And we haven't been like having our own, we're not accustomed to have our own back, right? Like we start agreeing with ourselves about all these judgments and then beating the shit out of ourselves and all that. When the truth is, there's so much arising that we get to let go of. We're actually being invited. Let go of the cocoon, let go of the egg, let go of the acorn. Not kick it to the curb. Acknowledge how it served you. It's not needed anymore. And we build a stronger self concept that we're going to take care of ourselves no matter what. So I think building a business is the greatest thing to do to unearth all the things that are living. They are already living in us. We're just not aware. But our body is. Our body's aware.
Yeah, I totally agree. And exactly. So we really have to die to the self-concept. We have to be born again, basically. And
Yes.
this too is why so many, you hear so many high performers talk about they have like a separate uh, um, like an avatar or whatever, where you just create the person um, that you need to be. Like you have this alter ego and you just
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself to step in. That's when people talk about their superpower or whatever. All we're doing is playing. And this is why I tell people, so like this, I was talking about this morning. Let yourself imagine and play in your imagination, because when we can go there like a child, all of a sudden we are allowing that energy of being married to the vision, right? Where
Yes.
we're like, okay, well, if I don't feel like being so and so, I'm just going to pretend. Now, there's all kinds of weird shit about this, right? Because you could also go the other way and say, then you're not dealing with what you really need to deal with. But you have to be able to go over that bridge to who you are. And I think it's innate in us to know how to do that if we don't resist. Like when you're going through a really traumatic grieving period, I know I had to get on and do lives every day. I mean, I look back at those lives, I deleted them all actually not too long ago because I was like, oh my God, I really thought I was on top of that. Obviously, I wasn't, because you can see grief in someone's eyes.
Yes.
But internally, you have, and it's just like business. It's not a fake it till you make it. It's not a false, like you're showing up as someone that you aren't. You're showing up as the larger version of you. And
Yes.
you're just putting on a new set of clothes that feels a little weird. So
Yeah.
I do think it's so much about self-concept, because if you, at the end of the day, the self-concept is what drives everything, all behavior,
Absolutely.
absolutely every bit of your behavior. And
Mhm.
when we think that we have to have that human being or that job or that anything, circumstance, condition, um, to feel that, we're on the wrong path.
Yeah. I know we don't make allowance for, hey, I'm designed to be a butterfly. So I'm allowed to spread my wings while I'm transitioning to the fullness of my wings. Like I don't think we understand that if that desire lives in us, it's because it's part of who we are. We just don't have all the evidence yet. That's not a problem. We still want to create that entrepreneurial avatar. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurial. It's the avatar of whoever, right? We let go of things like there are people, precious people in my life that just identify themselves as I'm fat. That's an identity that they've worn since they were little. And it's still just how they think of themselves. Well, as long as we're using that self concept, which is like the cocoon or the egg or the acorn, right? There are reasons they wrap themselves in that identity. But
Mhm.
as long as we're holding that identity, we won't achieve any goals that take us away from that. We literally shift that identity and part of that. So with the letting go piece, part of it is recognizing, hey, those identities, there is grief around them. And that's the letting go of the pain and I don't know why pain's the only word coming to, but all the things that aren't serving us, but we want to honor that I took whatever the identity was, I took it on for a reason. And it kept me safe for a season. Ooh, I'm a rapper. And I get to let that go so that I can move into this vision of who I'm becoming. And who you're becoming already exists. We want to call on her to draw us forward. Like I'll ask her, what do you want from me today? How do I best serve you? And gain confidence from because I know there's another version of me that I'm only scratching the surface of. But she already is there. There are so many iterations of us from past and future. I don't Michelle, just speak into this or something new.
Okay. So yeah, my mind was going all over the place when you were talking. I mean, I was listening to you, but oh, I know what I was going to say. So this everything that we're talking about today is nothing, there's nothing new under the sun, okay? It's not like this is new information that most of
Mhm.
us already know, we've already had conversations about. But what I find so interesting is that like I taught all these workshops over the weekend, well, from last Friday. And even though, like, I guess what I'm saying is I've spoken with enough women of late who I know are intelligent, accomplished, educated, varying levels of like personal development, but it's not like this information isn't out there. And
Mhm.
so we have the tricky part about the blind spots is that we're blind to them. The tricky part
Absolutely.
about fixed mindsets is that we're fixed in them and we really don't see.
And our brains, because they are designed for, safety and fast, they ignore information that doesn't serve what we already know. So it's like a double whammy. It's like we don't know what we don't know, and our brains are repelling what doesn't fit our little Xbox, right? And O drops in the Xbox, and our brain's like, no. So but that's why doing something new. So I'm going to tell a personal story. Um, I mentioned that shame came up, right, when I started the business. But here's what really came up. I noticed myself, I'm in a mastermind, an elite mastermind with people doing amazing things in the world. And I noticed my brain wanting to compare. And I noticed the idea that I'm not like them. I'm not designed for this. I won't succeed like that, like all the things. What When I was a little girl, there was a season that we were living in government subsidized housing, and there was a close family member who, in contrast, was extremely wealthy. This family member spoke into my life and told me that I was different, told me that I don't think she used the word white trash, but that was the um oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. It's so weird. Told me that things had to be given to me because I didn't have what it took. And I was little. I was young. I was under 8 years old. But I'm so grateful that I went through that shame cycle because I needed to see the block that was in the way. So, what I didn't know is that I'm 51. For many years, I have carried in my subconscious a belief that I don't get to have what others have. So, but Michelle, the building the business was the provision. My desire, my goals, what I'm up to, that was the provision for the block to occur. Because when you said we don't know what we don't know, do you think I knew this was living in my subconscious and getting my results? I wasn't aware. So, what a gift! It was painful. I didn't like it. It was a death, but it was a death to an acorn because I'm a mighty oak.
You are a mighty oak. Absolutely.
So it was letting go of that story that identified me and that self concept. I just wanted to bring my own brain to the letting go piece.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know that that can be really emotional. I I mean, this is truly why I'm working with women, why so many women are working with women, because I hear this just like you hear about grief. This is what I hear, and not everyone. As a matter of fact, I would say the majority of women are not readily open to sharing that. Like, it takes a while to get there because there's so many layers of comfort, of ways that they have comforted themselves throughout their lives and that are kind of working, but they realize they don't. um it's my well, I don't want to go into the whole story. I don't think we have time, but maybe another time if we do a part two, which I think might be coming on this topic, I'll share that story. But basically what I'm trying to say is that every woman that I work with has something like this. And am so I'm so committed to this idea of business solves all this stuff, because it's because of what you have to face and deal with and become in order to build it. You've got this scaffolding, right? And of your life. And so I kind of lost my train of thought, honestly, but I'm listening to you talk about this, thinking this is every woman's story. You know,
Well,
there's
I
so
want to commend us really quick and also say why because Michelle and I are doing courageous conversations, and we on purpose do not script them. We don't know where the conversation is going to go any more than you do. And the reason we do it is because we're committed to courageously going to the layers that reveal themselves, that need to be exposed, for the purpose of, we know this is every woman's story. why else would I share the stuff that exposes me?
Yeah.
I don't share it because I'm like, hey, look into my, no, I don't want to take you into my dirty closet unless I know that there is hope, there is light, there is beauty, and this is the path to get to the dreams in each of us. It's like, hey, we
Oh,
got to normalize this stuff. So,
well, I don't know. Like, I don't know that I guess normalize. I don't know why that triggers me. Certainly.
yeah, tell me.
I think that because what I want to normalize is our ability to give ourselves what we want, to take what we want and give ourselves
Yes.
what we want, not to soothe each other for our pain.
No, no,
Okay.
no. My
But
point
let
is
I know,
normalize the transition experience.
I got it. I got it.
Normalize that this can be part of it, but it doesn't disqualify those dreams. It
Right.
doesn't disqualify the future. I mean, I know women making multiple millions. Do you think they've got it all the way worked through? No, but how did you say it earlier? It was so beautiful. They were more committed. Dang it, Michelle. Now I want to go back and listen to you, but
Well,
there was a point.
I'll tell you
Go
because
ahead.
I've been wanting to say this for a while. So back to like why I'm doing what I do. And the majority of the conversations on a daily basis, and this is why like my signature program, everything I built out is around exactly this, which is all vision. Because the more you identify with the vision, the more married you are to the vision, the more energy you put on the vision, the more you make yourself believe that it is a God, like that burning desire, I'm going to experience this, you will leap over all that crap that will flatten you if you don't do that.
Yeah.
And everything you think, everything you say, every interaction you have has to be aligned. And that's why, like, it's such basic stuff. But when you look at what is your vision is your value. And most of us do not have the self-awareness. Well, I don't want to speak negatively. We have an opportunity to be so self-aware of what our true values are. Gosh darn it, I did it again. Um, the values, most of us will say we know what our values are, and we are flat out lying to ourselves. We don't know what we value. We have no idea what we value. We still are saying we value what we thought we were supposed to value. I value honesty. I value integrity. I value kindness. I value, I'm making fun of it, but only because it is, if it feels easy to you, I guarantee you're not digging deeply enough. When you actually look at your life and look at what you spend your time doing, where your energy goes, and you can get really honest about that. And you know that, and you open that up in your body, that will drive your vision, and your vision will allow you to get through all the stuff you're going to have to go through. So yeah, I think everything is vision driven. And I'll tell you what, my shame for so long was around that,
What do
because
you mean?
I knew that was the truth in business. And I didn't have the courage to, the times I had the courage to speak out, and I built, every business I built came from that. But when I went through my trauma and I was definitively told that, you know, sounds so stupid and trite, but let's diminish my trauma. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Well,
let me diminish my grief. But it really, to me now, it's just like so silly. It's like once you learn how to tie your shoes, but I was really shamed for being too happy, too optimistic, too much into relationships. And why are you always talking about vision? Like, could you stop talking about vision and relationships and quit being all unicorn and rainbows? I'm like, well, shit, it works. I mean, everybody loves everything. We're feeding these people are like nourished and motivated. They're drinking the Kool-Aid and we're profitable. So what the hell? But my point is that it can be discounted as long as you have your vision statement and your mission statement, we're good to.
That it's not the same thing.
It's very superficial.
Yeah.
So, but I'm
And
telling you, it's this is the core, right? It's like who you really, and the funny thing is that all we're doing is just being like, oh my gosh, like the light goes on and we're like, the awareness that we exist and that in and of itself is the flippin' miracle. We are the magic wand. We are completely and totally sufficient to do this, whatever this is.
yes,
Isn't it amazing? It's kind of just
it's
like, wake up,
absolutely amazing.
you know? So,
Yeah. Yeah, we are the miracle. There was something that arose in my spirit to share when you were talking, and it has dissipated, and maybe that's because our time is almost up. Um, I do know that it was around when you said, "Hey, if it feels easy, you're not going deep enough." And the
mm,
one thing that is top of mind right now is the women that come to me, they are really experiencing the loss, they're experiencing the interruption to their lives, but so their vision might not be way out in the future. It's a vision of wanting to feel whole and integrated. And some of them say, I just want to feel like myself again. What they end up finding is in dealing with the grief that allows them to cast a greater vision, because now think about it, when you've been living like with the parts of you as disintegrated and they become braided and together, the strength is multiplied to cast a vision out into the future. Oh, and the vision is what allows the things that are, as we are on mission to reach the vision, all the internal stories come up, and that is, it's so provisional, because now we can see the crabs in the bucket, what's pulling us down
yeah.
every time we're trying to take a big leap. So
Okay.
yeah.
I want to say one thing about that too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up because look, I'm not being like that person that maybe I sounded like, because when you're dealing like with a business or anything, the vision can simply be the next step. But
Yeah.
when you admit what you really value. So there were days during the summer, I'll tell you, where I was such on a roller coaster because I was definitely jumping off a big, I'm going to believe in myself in a different way. And there were days that I was like, I remember, I don't know why this came to my mind, but I remember one day being like, okay, I'm going to put on my shoe because the person that I am goes to the gym even when I don't feel like it. I literally remember telling myself like a child, like you were saying, control your nervous system. It's like that. So the
Yeah.
vision was tie your shoe. Now do
Yeah.
the other one and then go into the car. And then I would say to myself, drive, just all you have to do is drive to the gym. You don't have to go in, like, don't go in. And then I'd be sitting in the parking lot going, that's really stupid. Like, I guess I'll go in, I mean, there are always going to be days like that where all your vision is get out of bed. And, I mean, we all know this. This is nothing new. This is how we raise our children, right? This is why Mel Robbins is famous for counting to 5. I mean, come on. Like everyone who has a child knows that you do that with children, right? Be a rocket ship, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and look at the popularity of that. Why? Because sometimes we just need someone to say to us, your vision of getting out of bed is enough. Like that person in you that gets out of bed today, it's like the woman giving the last of her money who had none. You're just betting on yourself. You're betting on the possibility instead of the confines of your false comfort, which at some point is going to crumble, whether you like it or not, because we're designed to expand. So
Absolutely.
it's like, yeah, one little tiny moment at a time. And it's
And
just,
those tiny moments, we get compound interest.
yes.
Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
How would you summarize letting go from today's talk, Michelle?
I mean, when I think about letting go, I don't think about letting go. I just think about expanding. Because in the act
That's
of
what you said
expanding,
before. She's more focused on her expansion, and
yeah,
maybe you didn't say than her limitations, but you said than her. There's something like that in there. And I love this idea of allowing ourselves to dream about the
I
expansion.
know it's all, look, the fact is, we're just supposed to play and have faith, period. It's all going to be okay.
Absolutely.
It just is. I mean, we've all been through things we didn't think we could get through. And one of the reasons we stay there so long is because we doubt and we feed the monster instead of feeding the faith. So, at this point in life, why not give it a go, feed the faith, jump off the cliff, grow a wing or two, like, be brave,
Yeah.
right? And just
Yeah.
expand. And in the act of expanding, you will let go without even knowing. It will happen like organically. What about you?
Well, one of the things I would like, because I want to make sure people understand that in letting go, we're not ignoring what's there. And I was thinking about letting go as I fell asleep last night. And the thing that came up for me is we must have something to let it go. And we can't have it without the awareness of it. So there's things that we suppress on purpose, there's things we repress subconsciously. We want to make space for those things to come up so that we can release them. And that does not take away from, like, I am so vision driven, Michelle. I know what you're saying is true. The vision must be bigger than the limitation. And so they don't contradict one another. It's not an either or, it's a both and. But we see it and we allow ourselves to experience it and let it go.
Oh, I really love that and appreciate that, because I was just thinking, I hope this conversation is helpful for whoever sees it. I have a feeling if I would have seen this or heard it when I was in the depth of despair, I would have found it very annoying and overly cheerful. So I apologize if that's the case, but you know, when again, it is so much about the body honoring all. I just agree with you. And that's what life is like. We aren't compartmentalized.
Mm-mm.
And I know that there are people that will say you must learn to. I wanted so much. That's all I wanted was, I wish I could just compartmentalize like these men I
We
know.
think we can.
How do
It's
they
such
do it?
BS. But
Yeah.
I will say, look, everything that you said about play and curiosity is so fundamental. And there are women who are like, hey, I don't know how to play. And if that's you, I can help.
And the other thing, and we got to end this. I have to get
Okay.
this call actually. but I did, maybe this will be part two, because I have noticed in working with women who are midlife, um, who just so many different things. There's a new opportunity. There's a new paradigm right now, and it's really true. We are allowed to be fully ourselves and massively successful. It
Yes,
does not matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you've been carrying this stuff in your body for 50 or
doesn't matter.
60 years. And what I want to say is, like, there was a time, and you can see it not in all women, I'm generalizing here, but you can see it in different um, age demographics of women who hit massive success in different generational times, what it took for them to fight against corporate male stuff. And those women they communicate differently in the world of business. I'm not going to get into all this right now, but right now you have an opportunity to skip over that. You don't have to, your avatar can be anything you want it to be. It's
Michelle, this
that's
morning
you.
on Instagram, and I don't remember her last name, but I just think it's a great inspirational thing to end on. This woman, Joan, she's an Instagram sensation. She's 75. She was not even able to walk herself up a flight of stairs. She struggled to do it. Now she's this built, beautiful, I don't know how many followers she has, like a million or something. She was just on like CBS or something like that. I was looking at her biceps and I'm all, oh my gosh, I need to start strength training again. But same thing, built a business and is inspiring millions. And she started at 73. And what she got to let go of in that process. I just,
I
I
love
wish I
it.
knew her last name to tell
Yeah,
you all, but
well, we'll all go look for her and follow her. And we hope if you watch this, you will subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, you will come back. We will be here tomorrow on Clubhouse. If you're listening to us on Clubhouse right now, we'll be here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and we will be talking about trust on Clubhouse tomorrow. And if you are watching this, please subscribe and share and comment, because we really do want to serve you with conversations that really just kind of build on what your thought processes are and your experiences. We are here for you and to explore this. It's not serving, I mean, it does serve us, it's fun, but we're really here to serve. We are here with servants hearts for you, and so hopefully it's working out for you. We do love you though, and Lisa, Michelle, I love you and I appreciate you, and I'm signing off of Clubhouse now. Thank you everyone on Clubhouse who came, and there is a replay that I'm saving. I think I've never remembered to do that before. And we will sign off here and be back every Monday. We will be here at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
perfect.
Ciao.
Bye, Michelle.